The modern landscape of work is a constant barrage of noise. Notifications ping. Emails stack up. Social media feeds refresh endlessly. We are witnessing a quiet, catastrophic erosion of a fundamental human skill, the ability to focus deeply. This distraction addiction has a profound cost. It's not just about a few lost minutes, it's about the degradation of intellectual capability. In an economy that rewards rare and valuable output, true productivity is plummeting. The vast majority of the professional world is trapped in what can only be called shallow work. Checking in, clicking through, answering instantly, tasks that are necessary, but inherently non-cognitive. These are easy to replicate and contribute little to true value creation. But there is a counterforce. A secret weapon for those who dare to master it. It is a skill, refined and potent, that separates the masters from the masses. It is the capacity for deep work. The ability to focus, without distraction, on a cognitively demanding task. This is not merely about better time management, it is a mindset, a philosophy, a competitive advantage. This superpower is not innate, it is cultivated. It is the bedrock of world-class performance in a hyper-competitive, globalized world. This documentary will pull back the curtain on this vital discipline. We will explore the scientific, psychological, and economic rationale behind it. We will meet the pioneers who have weaponized their focus to produce truly exceptional results. From secluded cabins to meticulously structured days, their methods are varied, but the core principle is the same. Deep work is the single greatest competitive edge in the 21st century. It is the engine of innovation, the driver of mastery, and the path to a life of profound meaning. The choice is clear: surrender to the shallow, or master the deep. The future belongs to those who can concentrate. The year is 2025, and the attention economy is at its peak. Every business model is optimized to capture, hold, and monetize human focus. This creates a hostile environment for anyone seeking sustained concentration. The rise of ubiquitous connectivity, initially hailed as a tool for liberation, has become a chain. We are constantly accessible, a state that makes meaningful, high-level thinking nearly impossible. Our key subjects are drawn from a cross-section of high-achieving fields. We will profile a software developer who produces in one deep work session what his peers achieve in a week. We will follow a writer who has systematically removed all forms of digital distraction to complete 3 seminal works in 5 years. These individuals represent the vanguard of a new productivity movement. They understand that quantity of output is irrelevant, quality and intensity of focus are everything. Their lives are structured as a series of intentional boundaries. They do not merely try to focus, they architect their entire existence around it. The stage is set in the modern open-plan office, the symbol of endless, low-level interruption. The very design of our workspaces seems to conspire against the deep life. We explore the psychological principle that deep work is valuable because it is rare. The less people are willing to engage in it, the more valuable it becomes for those who do. We examine the neurological underpinnings of flow state, the intense, satisfying immersion that accompanies deep work. It's not just about getting more done, it's about accessing higher levels of cognitive function. The subjects of our study are not superhuman, they are systematic. They employ specific philosophies: monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, and journalistic. Each approach is a deliberate, personalized strategy for minimizing shallow work and maximizing deep effort. The common thread is a profound respect for their limited attention capacity. They view focus as a finite resource, one that must be guarded fiercely. Their commitment challenges the conventional wisdom of constant collaboration and instant response. The central paradox of modern productivity is this: we are working longer hours than ever, but feel less accomplished. The mystery lies in the disconnect between effort and meaningful result. Why do the most connected and busiest people often produce the least groundbreaking work? The initial problem is the relentless intrusion of what Newport calls the metrics of busyness. The visible signs of effort, a full inbox, instant replies, a packed calendar, have replaced actual value as the currency of the office. Many knowledge workers, lacking clear, quantifiable metrics for their job, default to performing shallow work because it is visible and reassuring. It creates the illusion of productivity. This behavior is self-reinforcing. As everyone performs shallow work, others feel compelled to keep up, creating a culture of distraction that punishes deep focus. The result is a societal plateau in intellectual achievement. Major breakthroughs become rarer. Innovation slows. The ability to master complex information, a prerequisite for high-level skill, is undermined by fractured attention. Every time attention shifts, a cost is incurred, the attention residue left by the previous task. We are mentally carrying the baggage of the email we just checked, even as we try to pivot to a complex project. This residue, often invisible to the worker, severely dampens cognitive performance. The core mystery is how the modern economy, which ostensibly values high skill, complex problem solving, actively sabotages the very environment required for it. We investigate the corporate policies, social pressures, and technological design decisions that have led to this shallow trap. The initial problem is therefore systemic and psychological. It requires a radical shift in personal habits and institutional culture to overcome. The first major clue that deep work is the answer comes from the most competitive sectors of the economy. Elite performers, whether in academia, finance, or technology, consistently demonstrate a habit of intense, sustained concentration. The crucial discovery is historical. This is not a new skill, but an ancient one, rediscovered. We look back at the routines of historical figures: Carl Jung's secluded tower retreat, Mark Twain's isolated study. Their greatest achievements were forged in periods of self-imposed, deliberate isolation. The clue is consistency. Deep work is not a sporadic event, it is a practiced discipline. A key discovery emerges from neuroscience: the concept of myelin. Myelin is a fatty tissue that wraps around the axons of neurons, acting like insulation on an electrical wire. It allows neural impulses to travel faster and more efficiently. The more intense and focused the practice, i.e., the deeper the work, the more myelin is generated around the relevant neural circuits. Therefore, deep work is the process by which expertise is physically encoded into the brain. Distracted practice, conversely, produces noisy and inefficient myelination. The first clue is thus biological: deep work is the fastest path to mastery. Another crucial discovery is the law of production, which states, high-quality work produced equals, time spent, x, intensity of focus. This formula makes clear that simply extending hours, time spent, yields diminishing returns if focus intensity is low. To triple output, one must double the focus. This realization turns the conventional wisdom of hustle culture on its head. It is not the person who works 80 shallow hours, but the person who works 40 deep hours, who wins the long game. The evidence is in the measurable output of these deep workers, articles, patents, code bases, that fundamentally shift their respective fields. The path to success is not through endless activity, but through concentrated, high-leverage effort. The origins of the deep work imperative are rooted in two economic forces, the information economy and the rise of automation. The context of the 21st century economy fundamentally changes the value proposition of human labor. Tasks that are algorithmic and rule-based are increasingly handled by computers. This leaves two types of workers with indispensable value. The high-skilled workers, those who can quickly master complex tools and information systems. The superstars, those who can produce at an elite level, whether that's in creativity, strategy, or leadership. Both of these classes of workers rely absolutely on deep work. The high-skilled worker needs intense focus to learn new, difficult skills rapidly. The superstar needs it to generate novel, high-impact results that cannot be replicated. The historical context of the Industrial Revolution saw value created by routine, mechanized labor. The context of the Information Age sees value created by non-routine, creative, and strategic cognitive labor. The origin of the problem, shallow work, is found in the advent of the Internet and digital communication. The 1990s and 2000s normalized a culture of constant connectivity, initially driven by convenience. But convenience mutated into obligation. The default assumption became that an employee should be instantly reachable. This institutionalized the fragmented attention span. We perform a deep dive into the technology companies themselves. The tools designed to connect us, email, chat, social platforms, are now the primary drivers of distraction. They are, in many ways, the saboteurs of the deep life. The context of deep work, therefore, is one of self-defense. It is a necessary rebellion against the cultural and technological forces designed to erode our most valuable asset, our concentration. The person who succeeds is the one who understands the economic landscape and deliberately opts out of the noise. The concept of deep work is not universally accepted, it conflicts with several popular, but ultimately flawed, modern business theories. One conflicting theory is the cult of the open plan office, which prioritizes serendipitous interaction and constant collaboration. The proponents of this theory argue that chance encounters and easy access lead to innovation. Deep work proponents argue that true innovation requires periods of deep, uninterrupted thought, followed by intentional collaboration. Another conflicting theory is the maximalist approach to connectivity, the idea that constant checking of email and participation in internal chat groups is crucial for organizational agility. The escalating stakes are clear. This conflict is determining who thrives and who merely survives in the economy. If the collaborative, constantly connected theory is correct, deep workers are isolating themselves and missing key opportunities. If the deep work theory is correct, the majority of companies are actively crippling their intellectual capacity and falling behind. The stakes are highest for young professionals. Entering the workforce, they are often immediately inducted into the culture of busyness, confusing activity with productivity. They learn to value visible effort over actual contribution. The evidence mounts on the side of deep work. Companies that mandate blocks of uninterrupted work time, even just a few hours a week, report higher rates of successful project completion and greater employee satisfaction. The conflict is essentially a battle for the soul of the knowledge worker. It is the tension between the easy, social, and visible work, versus the difficult, isolated, and high-value work. The pressure to be seen as responsive is a profound cultural deterrent to deep focus. The escalating stakes involve the creation of a cognitive elite. As a few individuals and organizations master deep work, the gap between them and the shallow majority will become insurmountable. The ability to produce complex, novel results is creating a winner-take-all environment. The point of no return is reached when an individual or an organization consciously accepts the deep work hypothesis and radically restructures their operations around it. This is not a gradual change, it is an irrevocable commitment to a new way of working. For the individual, the point of no return often involves a dramatic, public announcement of new rules. This could be the establishment of a digital blackout, periods where internet access is deliberately severed or restricted to non-work use. It involves the ruthless scheduling of every minute of the workday, with deep work sessions prioritized and defended against all intrusions. The shift is psychological, the worker transitions from being reactive to being proactive. They cease to be a slave to their inbox and become the master of their attention. For organizations, the point of no return is the implementation of deep days, or a no internal email policy for set periods. This requires top-down buy-in, as any middle manager who insists on instant communication can sabotage the entire effort. The organization accepts a temporary reduction in internal chattiness for a massive long-term gain in innovative output. This phase is difficult because it challenges the comfort of routine. It requires workers to confront the discomfort of intense focus, the mental strain that comes from pushing cognitive limits. This discomfort is a sign that the myelin-building process is underway. The no-return aspect is crucial. Once an individual tastes the satisfaction of truly deep, high-value output, the low-grade anxiety of shallow work becomes intolerable. The former habit of constant checking and quick-response activity feels meaningless and wasteful. The new operating system is installed, and the worker cannot easily return to the old, shallow ways. The rewards are addictive, but in a positive way, a sustained feeling of accomplishment and professional efficacy. The halfway revelation comes from the understanding that deep work is not just about what you do, but about what you say no to. The midpoint twist is the realization that the shallow work is a seductive trap because it is the brain's default state. It is an evolutionary mechanism. Our attention is built to scan the horizon for threats or opportunities. The constant ping of a notification exploits this ancient survival wiring. The brain is naturally lazy, preferring the easy, low cognitive load of checking email to the demanding, high-energy consumption of deep focus. The twist is that the battle is an internal one against human nature, not just an external one against technology. The deep worker is not a productivity robot, they are a trained attentional athlete. The revelation forces a pivot in the narrative. The focus shifts from external strategies to internal control. We examine the need for deliberate practice for attention. Just like a muscle, focus must be systematically trained and rested. The midpoint twist is the introduction of productive meditation and productive procrastination. Productive meditation involves focusing attention on a single, well-defined professional problem while the body is busy on autopilot, e.g., walking, showering. Productive procrastination is a scheduled, intentional release of the mind, allowing the subconscious to work in the background. This overturns the initial, simplistic view of deep work as just working without distractions. It is, in fact, a carefully orchestrated dance between intense focus and strategic mind-wandering. The true revelation is the necessity of shutting down. The mind needs rest to consolidate the gains made during deep focus. The deep life requires a clear, non-negotiable end to the workday. The mind cannot be always on. This leads to burnout and diminishes the quality of subsequent deep sessions. The twist is that the most productive people are also often the most deliberate with their rest. New evidence from cognitive psychology reinforces the power of deep work on mental health. The psychological impact of a deep life is profound. It is the antidote to the anxiety of busyness. The new evidence points to the concept of flow state as the key to professional fulfillment. When a person is fully immersed in a demanding task that is perfectly matched to their skill level, they experience a state of intense enjoyment. This is where deep work and meaning converge. The psychological impact is the replacement of the feeling of being used, by the inbox, by the calendar, with the feeling of being the user, the agent of creation. The mind is organized by the focus, reducing the low-grade stress and guilt that accompany shallow work. New evidence also emerges concerning the decline of the ability to handle boredom. The instant access to distraction has made us attentionally fragile. Any moment of mental downtime, waiting in line, walking between meetings, is immediately filled with a smartphone. The psychological impact is a decreased tolerance for the quiet persistence required for deep work. The ability to tolerate boredom is now a prerequisite for great achievement. We introduce the psychological tool of a deep work ritual. This is a pre-planned set of steps that signal to the brain the transition into a state of deep focus. It includes a specific location, a time commitment, and a rule set for the session. The ritual minimizes the mental energy wasted on deciding how to start the work. The evidence shows that these rituals create a powerful psychological anchor, making the transition to intensity smoother and more consistent. Ultimately, the psychological payoff is a sense of genuine, tangible contribution. The deep worker knows their output is valuable because it was difficult to produce. This fulfillment is impossible to attain through endless, meaningless email exchanges. Despite the clear economic and psychological benefits, there are systemic forces that actively suppress the truth of deep work. These forces are often driven by short-term metrics and a fundamental misunderstanding of value creation. One major attempt to suppress the truth comes from corporate culture that conflates visibility with productivity. The manager who feels reassured by seeing an employee instantly reply to an email discourages the isolation necessary for deep work. This manager is suppressing the truth because instant communication makes their own life easier, regardless of the cost to high-level output. Another suppression attempt comes from the technology providers themselves. Their entire business model is built on maximizing screen time and engagement. A world of disciplined deep workers is a threat to their core profit centers. Features like read receipts and status indicators are all subtle pressures designed to keep attention fragmented and responsive. The suppression is also self-imposed, the fear of missing out, FOMO. The deep worker who intentionally disconnects for hours must overcome the anxiety that they are missing a crucial piece of information or a social connection. This fear is a powerful inhibitor, pushing people back into the shallow stream. We examine the busyness trap as a defense mechanism. Many suppress the truth of deep work because its adoption would force them to confront the fact that much of their current work is low value. It's easier to be busy than to admit that your primary contribution requires concentrated, difficult thought. This is a defense against the necessary self-evaluation that deep work demands. The suppression is not a conspiracy, but an emergent property of modern digital life, a collective, unconscious bias toward the easy and the immediate. Overcoming it requires a conscious, often difficult, countercultural stance. The pursuit of deep work is a constant, daily confrontation against the forces of distraction. This is not a one-time decision but a lifelong battle. The confrontation involves a radical re-evaluation of every tool and habit. The deep worker pursues two main goals: maximizing deep work and aggressively minimizing shallow work. The pursuit of minimizing shallow work leads to confrontation with organizational habits. The deep worker confronts the expectation of instant replies by setting clear, non-negotiable communication rules. They batch their emails and messages, creating specific, scheduled slots for communication, instead of allowing it to interrupt the day randomly. The confrontation with social media is particularly intense. The pursuit here is a pragmatic evaluation: do these tools provide a significant, clear benefit that outweighs their cost to my attention? If the answer is no, they are eliminated or severely restricted, not just for deep work sessions, but from the deep life entirely. This is the confrontation with the fear of professional or social irrelevance. The confrontation also occurs in the scheduling of the day. The deep worker is pursuing a state where every minute of their workday is accounted for, a technique called time blocking. This confronts the habit of working on whatever feels most urgent in the moment. When an interruption occurs, the deep worker confronts it not by allowing the interruption to take over, but by immediately deciding where it fits into the pre-planned schedule. The pursuit demands a high level of self-awareness. The worker must confront their own patterns of procrastination and their personal triggers for distraction. The pursuit is about consistently choosing the path of most resistance, the deep work, over the path of least resistance, the shallow work. In the final stages of mastering deep work, the scattered pieces of the methodology coalesce into a unified philosophy. The final pieces that fall into place address the relationship between deep work and leisure. The concept of the principle of least resistance is fully understood. This principle states that in any work situation, we gravitate toward the easiest, most convenient tasks. Deep work mastery requires the intentional substitution of a principle of most resistance, choosing the hard, focused task first. Another final piece is the realization that quantity of shallow work is finite. The deep worker does not attempt to eliminate shallow work entirely, that is impossible, but aggressively constrains it. They establish a budget for shallow tasks, and once that budget is reached, they stop. The last critical piece is the development of a grand plan for deep work. This is a long-term, philosophical commitment to deep work as the foundation of one's career and intellectual life. It is the realization that career capital, the rare and valuable skills that grant leverage, is built brick by brick through deep practice. The entire system now acts as a fortress for attention. The communication rules, the scheduled leisure, the deep work rituals, the time blocking, all work in concert to protect the most valuable asset. The feeling is one of deliberate control and professional agency. The worker is no longer simply performing tasks, they are executing a strategic, high-leverage plan. The final pieces confirm that deep work is not a set of tricks, but a way of life. It is an integration of attention management, rest, and strategic career planning into a seamless whole. The productivity gains are now compounding, as mastery accelerates and high-quality output attracts even better opportunities. The truth revealed is that deep work is more than a productivity strategy, it is the defining ethical challenge of the 21st century knowledge worker. The primary conclusion is that those who embrace deep work are not just more successful, they are more human. They are engaging in the kind of sustained, difficult effort that yields a profound sense of craftsmanship and meaning. The revealed truth is that the modern workplace, structured around constant interruption, is not just inefficient, but morally bankrupt in its treatment of human cognitive potential. It forces highly skilled individuals to spend a majority of their time on tasks that are beneath their capability. Deep work is the counter-ethic, a dedication to producing the highest possible value from one's unique skills. The primary conclusion, backed by the evidence of our subjects, is that the rewards of deep work are threefold. Economic advantage, the ability to produce rare and valuable output quickly, making the deep worker indispensable. Neurological mastery, the physical restructuring of the brain for high-level skill through myelin creation. Existential fulfillment, the deep satisfaction that comes from mastering a craft and performing tasks of demonstrable worth, replacing anxiety with meaning. The truth is that deep work is the path to escaping the tyranny of the urgent. It is a method for replacing the frantic, stress-filled chaos of the shallow life with a calm, purposeful trajectory toward excellence. The revealed power of deep work is its capacity to transform a job into a calling, and a career into a deliberate, meaningful climb toward mastery. The greatest advantage is not in what the deep worker accomplishes, but in who they become, a person of sustained focus, discipline, and high-level skill. The aftermath of fully adopting a deep life is a career defined by outliers, projects of exceptional quality and speed. The legacy of the deep work philosophy is already shaping the most forward-thinking companies. We see modern ties in the rise of makers' schedule environments, where workers are granted large, protected blocks of time for focused creation. The deep work legacy is the shift from measuring activity, hours at a desk, emails sent, to measuring contribution, tangible, high-value output. This aftermath creates a new kind of professional. They are not the first to reply, but the last word on the difficult problem. They operate with a calm, deliberate pace that is often unsettling to the shallow worker, who perceives inactivity. The modern ties are evident in the growing consumer market for tools that block access, apps and devices designed to impose digital solitude. The market is finally recognizing the economic value of disconnection. The aftermath of mass deep work adoption would be a revitalization of intellectual society. A population less anxious, more focused, and producing greater works of art, science, and strategy. The legacy of this philosophy is its simplicity. In a world of infinite distraction, attention is the new gold. The deep worker becomes a mentor, not through preaching, but through the undeniable evidence of their output. Their disciplined life becomes the benchmark against which others measure their own efficacy. The modern ties extend into education, with calls to teach attentional literacy, the skill of managing one's own focus, as a core competency. The ultimate aftermath is a culture where the creation of value is once again revered over the mere performance of busyness. The deep work superpower is a straightforward formula: focused effort, deliberately applied, over time. It is the skill of producing at an elite level, and it is accessible to anyone willing to put in the uncomfortable, demanding work of training their attention. The core takeaway is that a life saturated with constant connection is a life starved of intellectual and professional meaning. Deep work is the escape route. It requires 4 primary rules. Work deeply, develop a ritual and protect your deep sessions fiercely. Embrace boredom, train your mind to tolerate and even seek out mental quietude. Quit social media, the optional rule: critically and pragmatically assess the costs and benefits of all network tools. Drain the shallows, aggressively schedule and constrain all low-value, shallow work. The entire script comes down to a choice: will you be a craftsman who builds rare and valuable things, or a responsive conduit for the shallow demands of others? The lingering mystery, however, remains. Why, when the economic and psychological benefits are so clear, do so many choose the path of constant distraction? Why do institutions so stubbornly resist the structural changes necessary to support their most valuable workers? The answer, perhaps, lies in the difficulty. Deep work is hard. Shallow work is easy. The lingering mystery is a test of will, a challenge to see who possesses the rare resolve to do the demanding work of a deep life. The superpower of the 21st century is not found in a new application or a new device. It is found in the ancient, difficult, and profoundly rewarding act of concentration. The future is being built by the deep workers, one intensely focused hour at a time.